in my opinion, the liberals, I hate to call them progressives because progressive to me is a positive term. And they've stolen the positive nature of that. So I'm going to call them leftists or liberals. It's like the word rainbow. Don't you hate the fact that they've stolen the word rainbow from us? And they've stolen the word pride. You know, here's my pride and joy. Well, now pride means something that is wrong. So never in my lifetime have the leftists been more well-funded, more focused, more aggressive, and more unified, and more willing to do crazy things. And so right now, it feels more like America, the leftists have their hands on the throat of America. And so from my standpoint, this is the time when we stand up, and if we don't stand up in Oklahoma, who in the country is going to stand up? Right? This is where we plant the flag. We voted red, all 77 counties, the last two national elections. And we are a state that believes in free enterprise, not socialism, not government checks for people. We believe in hard work, incenting hard work and innovation and risk-taking. Those companies that take risks provide jobs. And so we believe in free enterprise, free market, and then we go around and help those who, because of some disability, cannot compete in the jungle. The opposite of that is that we're all sheep on the hillside, grazing on government grass. And pretty soon the government will start cutting down on that grass because they'll tell us there's no way they can pay for grass anymore. But I think the Biden administration, by rolling out trillions of dollars in auto deposits to people, is trying to get people addicted to support.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Number two, America is not intended, it's in our DNA to be a godly nation, a God-fearing nation. Number one, we are a free enterprise nation. Number two, it's in our DNA to be a God-fearing nation. It wouldn't otherwise be in our founding documents, right? Our founding fathers and our founding mothers put in there, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, right? And at the end of the Declaration of Independence, they say, for the support of this declaration, with a confidence or a dependence upon divine providence, right? And so we are a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. And that dedication and that equality among men is not from the government, right? If the government can give us our rights, then the government can do what?
Right.
Take them away. So our rights do not come from the federal government or the state government. We're born in the image of God, and we have value because He made us. Now, the third part here is that America is not designed to be a nation where the center of gravity is in the federal government. The center of gravity is in the hearts and minds of we the people. When our forefathers and mothers formed America, they were rejecting dictators and kings. And so they came over here and they formed a government, and listen to how revolutionary this was. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, right? And it says that the government, we institute government with the consent of men. And when it stops serving that purpose, we'll change it. So the three things, we're not socialistic. We are, I'll put it in the positive, we're free market people in Oklahoma. We're God-fearing people in Oklahoma. And we're people who like our rights, our freedoms, and our liberties. And we know that we own those. We don't get them on loan from the government, right? Okay, so that's why I said yes. I look at $30 trillion of debt that we have borrowed, and the president's now trying to pay that debt back in cheaper dollars by inflating us. And you know how that hurts at the gas pump. We're back to seeing ridiculous gas rates, aren't we? You fill up your truck and it's $100. Or you go to the grocery store and it costs more money. So the Biden administration, that's a part of the movement to get us addicted to federal grass and grazing. And we're not going to do that. But where in America, other than Oklahoma, what state, other than Oklahoma, would you try to plant the flag in to start the turnaround of America? Florida, maybe, but Florida's got some big companies that are going to fight for their lives, I'll guarantee you. Disney's took a shot, but they're only getting started. But I like what I hear out of Florida, and I frankly think that Florida and Oklahoma are the partners in this turnaround, right? So at any rate, I'm challenging you, and the fact that you're here means that you are in the part of the bell curve of people who's sick and tired of what you see. And not just sitting on a sofa with a bag of chips. You're ready to take action. And so this set of elections, this June 28th, 15 days from today, has to be the start. All the way through the runoffs in August and the general election in November. And this can't be just for this room. You have to dedicate yourself to be a 5 times multiplier person, or a 10 times multiplier person, or 100 times. You know, are you crazy enough to call 45 people the day before the election and ask them to vote tomorrow? Right? I challenge you to be that person and leverage it. Now, in the Attorney General's race, my opponent lost by 270 votes last time. Every vote counts. Everybody you call makes a difference. So I'll tell you about myself. My dad was from Jeff City, Missouri, and he came to Tulsa. Mom was from Woodward, Oklahoma. She came to Tulsa. They met here. They had 6 kids. They valued, it was a strong family in terms of faith and family values. And Dad was a machinist for the Frisco Railroad. He worked across the river in that railroad yard. All 6 kids, you know, Mom and Dad had less than 2 years of college credits. But they valued education. He would quiz us on American history at the dinner table as a machinist. And I'll tell you what, we probably got more American history at the dinner table than they're getting in high schools now. I don't know that, but I think it's close. We can talk about that for a while, but they had 6 kids. All 6 of us put our own way through college at Oklahoma State University. And then 5 of us put our way through, we had 2 law degrees, a PhD in civil engineering, an MBA, and a master's in blood banking. That's what happens when you watch your dad put on steel-toed boots and go out and work the night shift for 30 years. That's a powerful motivation and gives me a powerful belief in the American dream and the American way. I met Lucia, my wife, who's right here at Oklahoma State University. I'm crazy about her. We've been married 43 years. And sometimes I think I'm crazier about her than she is about me. But it's worked out. We have 4 kids and 10 grandkids. And so I'm not going to hand off this America $30 trillion or by then $40 trillion in debt that they can no way pay off, because somebody then will come along and say, hey, there's no way we can pay this debt back. So we're all going to have to pay more taxes and be dependent upon the government. That's the sinister plot of this group. Now, let's talk about sinister plots for a second. Let's talk about vaccine mandates. Yeah. Some people in Washington come out and say, you have to let somebody shoot a hole in your arm and stick some chemicals in your body. And they've given the pharmaceutical companies immunity from you suing them over what it might do to you. That's sinister, using our employers who are good people, who we trust for the most part, and they're responsible for our paychecks to do their dirty work. And our paychecks, they pistol whip us with. So during my 10 months of public service since the governor appointed me, I've sued the Biden administration on your behalf 15 times.
Yes.
And we have won the vast majority of those cases. I could tell you about that, but I don't want to take your time. We've also joined 39 letters by Republican attorneys general confronting the Biden administration with the stupidity of their proposals. They seem hell-bent on punishing Oklahoma for being such a red state. And they want to punish our oil and gas industry. And going back to the 1970s, every president, Democrat or Republican, has had energy independence as one of their planks for America. And the Biden administration, which got elected, God knows how, and probably only God knows. But Biden administration comes out and says, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we're energy dependent? And wouldn't it be cool if we bought a lot of oil and gas from the Russians and gave them cash into their economy? Not just the Russians, but others. So that's the Biden administration. You know, the latest crazy thing they said was in the last 2 weeks, you know, I came out fighting against boys using girls' bathrooms. Right? I wrote a letter to the public schools in Stillwater because they were doing that, and they said to me that their board told them they have to. So I came back and I wrote a letter saying there's no case, there's no law that binds any public school in the state of Oklahoma to allow transgender boys in the girls' bathroom or locker room or vice versa. And last week, the Biden administration came out with a deal saying, we're not going to provide federal school lunch money to any public school that does not adopt the transgender agenda. Is there a dumber, you know, every day the Biden administration comes out with the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? And that's one of them. So we'll fight that again. And you might be able to discern that I love fighting the woke agenda, right? And I think we all do, because we all know that if we lose, if one of us loses, if I lose these cases, you lose. And so really, I feel like I'm the tip of your spear. But you need to know that it's on you and it's on me, you just as much as me, to go out there and turn out an army, because I don't know how much cheating will go on in this election in Oklahoma. The My Pillow guy says we're the second cleanest election system, but my opponent is so well funded that I don't know, I'm not accusing anybody of cheating. I'm just saying I don't know how trustworthy these elections are. Okay? And so we can't say, well, let's win by 200 votes. We have to each take it personally to go be a multiplier out there in terms of the number of people who vote. Pro-life, in my first week in office, I've been pro-life since, the 1980s. I spoke at a pro-life rally at the Mabee Center in Tulsa with Senator Inhofe in 1989. When I was nominated by President Trump to be a federal judge, the ABA, who I left when it went pro-abortion in the 1990s, and then later they went pro-gun control, they came out hard against me. And to me, as Senator Inhofe said, that's a badge of honor. When the leftist liberal ABA that only 10% of lawyers belong to comes out hard, that means they're scared. And so, anyway, the pro-life deal, I have the endorsement of the Susan B. Anthony list, which is the largest pro-life voice. In my opinion, the 3.9 million Oklahomans I represent include the unborn. And so I'm going to be a very loud voice for the unborn. And The National Right to Life has also endorsed me. And we joined early on with other states in support of the Mississippi challenge to Roe versus Wade, which we hopefully will hear about either Wednesday this week or in the coming 3 weeks. This is a critical time. Since Roe versus Wade, more than 60 million Americans have not seen the light of day because of that decision, which was not, by the way, is not being held up by lawyers as a marvel of legal jurisprudence. It was nothing more than the Supreme Court with the liberal majority doing this, holding a finger up to the wind and going with politics. So anyway, if you see a decision where they say that the United States Constitution does not include a right to an abortion, I hope you will celebrate that. Frankly, I would make that into a national holiday on the scope of VE Day, right? Yes. How many, where else have we lost 60 million lives in our history? Anyway, that's the pro-life thing. Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is protective of all the other amendments. So the Second Amendment came into being so that all of us could be the militia if we had a tyrannical government. And it's secondarily so we could protect our homes. So I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm against encroachment on that because, and I'll just tell you that if the government, it's unthinkable right now, but a lot of things were unthinkable. Right? Snowballing, yeah. It's like a doubling cube, right? It's a geometric curve, not an arithmetic straight line. Crazy is normal now, and we've got to restore ourselves to normal. But the Second Amendment, you know, the government, if they were ever going to take over, they're not going to come to your house with rubber band guns. That's why I'm against banning assault weapons. And I'm sorry to say that because on the heels of some shootings where there's these tragedies, but they always come out and say the president immediately jumps on it for political gain. It's not a gun that jumps out of the drawer and shoots somebody. Right? We have military, we have law enforcement. Sheriff, glad you're here. And they can shoot people. Everybody else that shoots people is either a criminal or either temporarily or long-term mentally ill. Sane people don't shoot people, innocent people, right? So we have to stand up for the Second Amendment, and it's a slippery slope. Once they crack the door open, then they'll take all the guns away eventually. That's right. And so we're not going to crack the door open. That's the Second Amendment. First Amendment, I can't believe, you know, I'm honored that the Tulsa World, you may have seen in Saturday's paper, came out and endorsed my opponent. What does that tell you?
Corruption.
Yeah, and one of the biggest advertisers, if not the biggest in the Tulsa World, are the Indian nations. You want to know who's funding the ads against the governor and me? Primarily the Indian nations, plus some liberals. So if they endorsed me, and I had a meeting with their editorial board, and they grilled me about being pro-life as if I'm small-minded. They grilled me about being for gun control as if, how can I be so 1950s in the year 2022? So the fact that, and I don't care, right? If they'd asked me, what do you think the chances are that you're going to get our endorsement? I was prepared to say the same as the chances are that I wanted. Right? So anyway, pro-life, I'm conservative. I have the endorsement of CPAC, a leading national voice for conservative values. Oak PAC, the state version of that. I forgot to mention on the Second Amendment, I have the endorsement of Oak, OK2A, which is the Oklahoma Second Amendment folks. I'm also the highest rated candidate in this race by the NRA. So now we go back, sorry about that.
I was going to stop before you.
Yeah, thank you. You all want me, I know, to sit down because I could go till midnight, and then we'd have shakes and pizza, and then we keep going. But at any rate, CPAC, my opponent is a farmer and a rancher in Osage County. The Oklahoma Farm Bureau has endorsed me. The Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association has endorsed me. The American Farmers and Ranchers Association has endorsed me. So that's kind of odd to me when my opponent has, is in those businesses. But at any rate, I want to see if there's anything else I wanted to. It's been an honor for me to be here in this moment with you, representing you, fighting for you. And I wanted to leave a few minutes for questions, so I'll do that right now. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Missy Clymer, and I'm gonna ask you a question about election integrity.
Okay.
I serve as the alternate on the county election board here in Osage County.
Yes, ma'am.
And was appointed, my first election that I witnessed was in April. The off-cycle election, very small for Osage County, but I identified and reported several things that I felt were against policy.
Right.
Or were just questionable in terms of the things we were doing here in Osage.
Right.
And since then, I feel like there's been a little bit of retaliation, happening to me.
Right.
Because I'm pointing out things that, are concerning.
Right.
So, what is, and I can understand how people aren't getting involved because of these situations happening.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what your office is doing with regard to election integrity, and how can we be assured that our elections are fair and transparent?
Yeah. Thank you. Let me say, first of all, please populate every precinct with a strong Republican observer. And those observers need to vote early so they can be available to do the observation, unless they give you a chance to vote during that time while you're the observer.
So can I tell you, I asked our county secretary if we could have observers at the precincts, and the answer was they can be there to witness a machine turning on, they have to leave.
No.
Then they can be there when the machine turns off.
No.
That's what our election secretary said.
What do you know?
I went to Tulsa County, and they told me that observers had to be outside.
Yeah. As far as I know, the observers, you're paid, you're not paid, you're there to observe honesty all day long.
Our secretary will not allow it.
Okay, well.
And she's a Democrat, by the way.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna give you all, if you'll write this down, 405 738 7780. That's my state cell phone. And you can text me, and I'll have somebody follow up on that,
Okay.
okay? So the only way that I'm aware really of a clean election is paper ballots.
Yes.
Counted in hand, by hand.
Yes, one day voting.
One day, paper ballots counted by hand.
Yes. How
And
can we
then
do
witnesses transport them, and the tally, That's the only way I'm aware of to have as much integrity as is possible. But you've got to have your witnesses there all the time at every stage. Anyway, that's kind of weird for me to be a candidate wondering, who's gonna show up on the start of the morning with 80,000 votes vote. Anyway, other questions, anybody?
Have you heard of such things as that, just recently?
No, that's the first time I've heard of them being told that the observer's there to open and close the day, and that's wrong.
I went to school last week in class up there at Pahuska, and the part that gets me on when they're counting the vote, it goes down to two Democrats and one Republican behind closed doors. After they pull the drive or whatever you call it out of the voting machine, they take it back there to tabulate it.
Right.
There should be no voting machine.
Yeah, the voting machines,
There should be
supposedly
none.
the voting machines, and I've sent 2 staff people to go over with our election board's director, The voting machine is supposed to be like a toaster. Like no communication skills. They plug the flash drive in the morning, make sure it reads out 0, get all the votes, pull it out in the afternoon, compare the number of votes with what the machine says. I don't know if they then compare that with the number of paper ballots, but that's what should be done. But I'm telling you, across the state and across the precincts, I'm afraid it's as sloppy as anything.
Very sloppy.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
When you question the system, if our legislature ordered the machines and they ordered them with Wi-Fi feature and they paid extra for that feature, and they shouldn't have ordered them that way. They shouldn't have ordered the machines.
Right.
But you darn sure don't order a machine with Wi-Fi when it's not supposed to be connected to anything.
Right.
They actually pay our extra
Your phone
tax
has
dollars to do
Wi-Fi.
it.
I love you all. I love you.
Yes, sir.
I love you.
I was at the District 66
I've been-
debate the other day. There's 4 candidates there. The question came up about election integrity. And every one of those candidates said they got their list from the voting rolls and that they went to houses or the addresses where the house didn't exist.
Right.
Multiple families in that house.
Right.
Every one of them said they ran across that.
Right. So here's the deal. I've been in office, public service for 10 months. And everywhere I look, like if I look up this chair, there's a bunch of rats and cockroaches in it. Then I go over here and look at this issue and I go, what the heck, what's that smell? Then I go over there. I mean, everywhere I look, I'm the outsider. And so in a sense, I'm the most dangerous guy over there because I'm free, so I'm gonna be looking into this. I don't know what I can get done before June 28th. And I could be a victim of my own, failure to not push right now.
That's right.
That's
right.
exactly right.
That's exactly right, says my wife. Yes, sir.
That is right.
If you get elected, will you prosecute election fraud?
So far I've gotten a list of 175 people who voted twice out of about 500,000 to 600,000 votes.
So what are you gonna do about those?
Well, I've sent agents out to interview them and find out what the stories are. And the agents came back, they've interviewed a couple handfuls at this point, and they truly believe that these were people who voted thinking they weren't gonna be in the state. They were, for the most part, elderly. And then they changed their plans, and then they weren't sure their mail-in ballot got counted, so they went and voted. We got a problem though when people can vote
You
twice.
should not have that.
But let me tell you, I don't know, frankly, if that's 175. I mean, that was presented to me as 175 duplicate ballots statewide, but I believe it's many multiple.
Oh, yes.
But I'd like to prosecute, when I find some people who deliberately voted twice, knowingly, I wanna prosecute them as felons in order to send a message to everybody else that you can't just do this
That's right.
willy-nilly and ruin our democratic system. Yes, ma'am.
So have you seen 2,000 Mules?
We started it last night.
Okay, so if you find this is going on in Oklahoma, my husband says, oh, there's not enough people in Oklahoma to make it worthwhile, they're just gonna do that in big cities. But if you find that happening in Oklahoma, it isn't just the 175 people who voted twice. Who's collecting those mules? Who's paying for them?
Right.
Who are the mules?
Yep.
Well, the nursing homes.
Nursing homes, harvesting, ballot harvesting.
Yeah, somebody's doing
Yeah,
that.
so look, I'm gonna look into this, whether I win or whether I lose.
Thank you.
You should have already looked into it.
Uh-oh.
Well, here goes election coming, we got cheated on the last
I agree with you.
one.
I
Hey,
agree. Yeah.
you work for us, we don't work for you.
I agree.
Remember, for 40 years, I was in your seat, and I've been over there for 10
No,
months.
no, right now, you gotta remember what we're asking you, you gotta do something about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't tell me to remember, I don't have to. I'm a taxpayer, I got a job, okay?
Yeah, David.
What was just suggested here cannot happen in the state of Oklahoma.
What cannot happen in the state of Oklahoma? Please repeat that, because I think I'll.
The Democrat peppering, we didn't use the drop boxes here in the state of Oklahoma.
Oh.
We didn't
We
use
use drop
universal, real
boxes.
quick,
Yeah.
we didn't use universal mail-in balloting in Oklahoma, we didn't use the universal mail-in balloting drop boxes. Universal mail-in balloting in Oklahoma is illegal.
Yes,
So all of our ballots are sent out marked,
your ordinance.
all that stuff. So what was suggested can't happen, just so you know.
Okay.
What about the voter
Because we
rolls?
don't use, well, I'm not talking about that, I'm just talking about the universal mail-in balloting. So
Okay,
the
but let's-
7 states that were stolen, their attorney generals arbitrarily moved and put them, without any permission, stepped outside the guidelines of the US Constitution and their states' constitutions, and went ahead and, allowed universal mail-in balloting, okay? Which those states have to correct. We do not have universal mail-in balloting in the state of Oklahoma.
So what do we have to correct?
But nationally.
Voter
we're
rolls,
still
they gotta be
saying-
clean.
We're doing that.
Well,
I'm part
Here's
of
what
that.
we have to correct. Somewhere in the system, okay, and there are people looking into it. Somewhere in the system, that system is plugged into some sort of trunk line that has, that data is transferred on. And we are not supposed to be on the internet. This trunk line is connected to the internet.
It's called Mesa.
It's
Right.
actually
So
not,
I-
it's actually not, but
detail.
you're partially correct.
But we have to get there. We have to find out that.
It can only be connected to the internet after they take the information out of the machine
Right.
and take it to an office.
So they take that.
Because at the machine in the
Right.
building where they're doing the
That's
voting
right.
cannot be
I
connected to
just
the
talked about,
internet.
I just answered the universal mail-in balloting question, that was all.
Yeah,
You're correct on that. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
Thank you.
there's no question, yes,
Well, obviously, there's an issue going on. What
Right.
can we do? We understand that, it's gonna take a team here.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
You're aware of it. I believe, that's Sheriff Eddie Verdine. How you doing, sir? Businessman, owner, property owner here in Osage. Thank you for your service. That's the most powerful man in our county right now. Would it be wise for us to maybe get with our local sheriff, get with your office, and let's get some observers?
AG O'Connor, may I kind of help you address that?
yeah. Please.
So, we are working, I've been prompted to move to the center so the camera picks it up. So, we have been working with the group, and two of the representatives are here, Robert and Jackie Smith, with Oklahoma Liberty Watch. We do know the voter rolls in Osage County and throughout Oklahoma, there's a lot of discrepancy, a lot of errors. We know that. We are trying to detect that. We've already started canvassing Osage County through Oklahoma Liberty Watch, and we've already made our first run, but we do need volunteers. If you are concerned and you would like to participate, I would ask you, see me after the meeting or see Robert or Jackie right here. Raise your hands again, Robert, Jackie, and talk to us, because this is the only way we're going to have fair elections, folks, is if we go out and do the legwork. It's gonna be us. It's gonna have to be us. So I would encourage you to please volunteer or consider volunteering, or if you know individuals that would volunteer, to help them, because we need more on our team. So thank you for
Yeah,
allowing
thank
me
you.
to address that.
Thanks, Wayne, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
In Tulsa County,
Uh-huh.
and with the census, the redistricting, they sent out everybody a new voter registration card. It's just a card, there's no picture, there's no nothing. Anybody that comes in with that card can vote.
Can I say
What
this?
county is
A
that?
good friend of mine,
Yeah.
I
It's
work,
Osage.
Tulsa? I can't hear.
Tulsa County.
Yeah, Osage can't do that. You gotta have a valid ID with a picture on it, and it has to be within the date. It can't be expired.
And that's, and when I voted in, when I have voted in Tulsa County, they always want to see my driver's license to prove it.
I just went to the precinct meeting, and.
They're not gonna require that.
If they don't have.
See, that's where the
voter
fraud that
registration
votes
card,
come
they
from.
want-
Yeah,
they
that's,
want a
that's the
photo.
breakdown, I'm talking about. We're gonna have to stand up. Yes,
the only thing a good friend of mine that works with him in the telecommunications world, I was involved in cyber terrorism, a lot of stuff like that, for 30-something years in telecommunications. He's one of the best people I've ever worked with in my life. He's Canadian, lives in Cleveland County, and he got a voter registration.
No, he got a ballot.
About it.
yeah, I know.
And he
The vo-
kept
guys, look,
calling, he
the
kept
voter-
calling and telling them.
The voter rolls need to be punished. There's no question.
Well, we've hired, I'm not.
So Wayne and his group, Liberty Watch, please volunteer with them, and we have to start somewhere, yes, sir?
You said something about the guns. You are against the, what did you say you were against?
I'm against any regulation of our guns.
Okay, so you're for all guns.
I'm
You're
for
not-
all, I'm for all guns.
Like, there's rumors about the ARs and this,
There's not assault rifle.
you,
Yeah, I'm for, people being able to own assault weapons.
okay, good,
I mean, that's where I am.
okay.
So let me also say two other quick things. I wrote a letter saying to the doctors that there's no prohibition on them prescribing ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine
Oh my
for that, right? And like, you know, my apology to you, I know that there were millions of Americans who could have been helped if the doctors had not been intimidated by the federal government. And so I checked with my people, one of my lawyers represents the MD licensure board. And then I checked with the DO licensure board to make sure that nobody had been punished or would be punished for prescribing that. And then I wrote that letter. My apology to you is I should have done it earlier. But I wrote it out.
When did this go out?
Probably April,
Okay.
yeah, of this year.
The reason I asked, I went to 3 doctors.
Uh-huh.
My heart doctor, or he was my previous heart doctor, I no longer go to him.
Right.
He told me if he prescribed Ivomec or hydroxychloroquine, he would go to jail.
That's what they had doctors believe.
All three doctors said basically the same.
Right, yes. Yeah.
I asked him, about the effects of the shot.
Uh-huh.
And could he elaborate on the effects of the shot that I've had?
Right.
I've had the 2 shots, I wish I hadn't had either one.
Yeah.
Those that haven't had them, thank you for not having them.
Right.
And, I hope they will not let their kids get the shot.
Right.
But they're continue to push the shots.
Right.
And there is a doctor in Tulsa that I called, and Dr. Meehan, and he was no problem at all, I get the
Right.
Ivomec and hydroxychloroquine.
Right. Dr. Robert Marsh too, right, in Tulsa? We'll do that?
No, well, don't.
Okay, all right, well, Randy Grellner, I know is a doctor in Cushing, he will do it.
Okay?
Uh,
Very few that will.
So jump on it early.
There's a couple of doctors in Burnsville that will do it.
Oh, there are.
Yeah.
But I work,
I'm sorry?
Will the pharmacy?
Yes.
yes.
Yes. In
Yeah.
Tulsa.
The pharmacist, actually, I looked into this.
Yeah.
I would have to go to Tulsa
Yeah.
to get it filled.
Yeah.
But they'd write it if they said you went to like CVS or.
No, they won't fill it there.
I know I'm killing Wade Burleson's time, I'm sorry.
One more question,
Yeah, let me just say, I researched the question of whether the pharmacist could kill a prescription, and they do have the authority if they believe it's a prescription that shouldn't have been written, to not fulfill it. So you have to pick the one who will. Last thing I'll say is parents, take back your school boards.
Yes.
Right? We should not be asking little kids what their pronoun is. We should not be teaching CRT. There is obscenity in some of these libraries, and the superintendents in some schools are defending the obscenity as having literary value. So the strong conservatives cannot sleep on our watch any longer. We've got to take back our school boards and our city councils. All right, so anyway, I want to thank you all for letting me and Lucia come be with you tonight. I would be honored to have your support on June 28. There are huge differences between my opponent and me, number one of which is he donated $1,000 to the Biden president election campaign.
That's a killer here.
Yeah, if I had $5 in my hand and you wanted it to go to President Biden, you'd have to cut my hand off. That's where that is, and that's where I am, okay? And if he says, you know, at first he said his wife stole his credit card.
No, somebody sold it.
Somebody stole his credit
Right.
card. And after people laughed at that for 3 months, he changed it and threw his wife under the bus and said she made it when she got mad at him. She made the contribution. But the fact is, he also gave to the Democrat who ran against Tom Coburn, the Republican. and he also gave to the Democrat who ran against Jim Bridenstine, the Republican in Tulsa, who Trump later made the director of NASA. So,
Plus
so-
he's financed by the tribes.
oh yeah, the tribes, he's made a deal on McGirt. If he were standing here, you said, what should we do about McGirt? He'd say, well, let me tell you, can't we all be friends? You know, states lost, so we just need to ask the tribes to tell us their terms. Meanwhile, I have represented the state, you, as the sovereign, and we got the US Supreme Court to say McGirt's not retroactive. If it had been retroactive, that would have opened tens of thousands of felony convictions and a lot of current prison doors. So we fought it and won that, and we have another case we could win in the next 3 weeks. The federal government will tell you that they only prosecute 1 in 4 felony referrals in eastern Oklahoma.
What case is that?
What's that?
What case is that?
What case is what?
The one coming up in 3 weeks.
It's, let's see, it's called Castro Huerto.
Oh, okay.
Okay, be looking for it because the federal government said they're not prosecuting 3 out of 4 felonies, referrals from our sheriffs, our police chiefs, and our district attorneys.
And talk about the sheriffs.
And, yeah. I'm
Sorry.
That's right, thank you. So, anyway, because the
Everybody
federal.
stay to hear Wade, he's incredible.
The federal government admits they're not prosecuting 3 out of 4 felonies. We asked them to allow the state of Oklahoma to come alongside and prosecute those who weren't being picked up by the feds. That's what's weighing in the balance right now. The other thing you'll hear from my opponent is that all the sheriffs are unanimously for him. That's not a true statement. Since he came out with a push card that he mailed out, I've heard from tons of sheriffs and police officers. They didn't poll every police sheriff or every police officer. It was a small group of trustees in their union. So a lot of law enforcement and veterans are for me. The Purple Heart gave me their highest civilian award about 2 months ago, and I know, I'm sorry, I've overstayed my welcome. Thank you.
All right, so we have our next speaker, Mr. Burleson.